Ethan Cole stood inside the great circular chamber of the Galactic Concord and reminded himself to breathe. The room was larger than any building he had ever seen on Earth, the ceiling curved like the inside of a planet, glowing softly with light that had no clear source. Dozens of species sat or floated or stood in places designed only for them. Some were tall and thin like living glass. Others were wide and heavy, resting on platforms that hummed quietly. Every sound carried weight here. Ethan was human. That alone made him unusual. Humanity had only joined the Concord 5 years earlier. Compared to the ancient civilizations present, humans were new, loud, emotional, and weak. At least, that was how many of the others saw them. Ethan knew this because he had read every report, every quiet comment recorded by listening drones, every careful warning sent by Earth's diplomats. Do not offend, do not joke, do not speak freely. Ethan tried to remember all of it as he adjusted the simple dark uniform he wore. It was designed to look calm and respectful, with no symbols that could be misunderstood. Even so, he felt small standing there. Across the chamber sat Queen Valeth of the Axari Dominion. She was impossible to ignore. Valeth was tall, even while seated, her posture straight and still. Her skin shimmered like polished stone under starlight, and her eyes reflected the room with sharp intelligence. A crown-like structure grew naturally from her head, smooth and elegant. The Axari were known for their strict culture, their powerful fleets, and their unbreakable laws. They valued honor above all else. Ethan knew this. Everyone knew this. That knowledge did not stop his hands from sweating. The meeting had been calm so far. Trade routes were discussed. Border disputes were postponed. A few species argued in ways that were polite but dangerous. Then, Queen Valeth spoke. Her voice was clear and steady, translated instantly into Ethan's earpiece. "Human representative," she said. "Your species speaks often of trust and unity. Yet humans are known to change leaders quickly, alter laws, and break agreements when it benefits them. Why should the Concord believe that humanity's word has lasting value?" The chamber grew quiet. Ethan felt every eye turn toward him. Some watched with interest, others with doubt. A few with what might have been hope that the human would fail. This was the moment Ethan had prepared for. He had practiced careful answers, polite answers, safe answers. Instead, his mouth moved faster than his thoughts. "Because when a human gives their word," Ethan said, "we stand by it, even if it costs us, even if it binds us for life." The words hung in the air. For half a second, nothing happened. Then the chamber changed. A sharp sound echoed as several Axari nobles rose to their feet at once. Others bowed deeply, their movements precise and formal. The Axari guards struck their staffs against the floor in perfect unison. Ethan's heart began to race. Queen Valeth stood. The movement was slow, controlled, and powerful. Every Axari present lowered their gaze. "I accept," she said. The translator repeated the words. Ethan blinked. "Accept what?" A ripple of quiet shock moved through the non-Axari delegates. Some began whispering. Others stared openly now. Queen Valeth stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Ethan. "By ancient Axari law," she said, "you have spoken the words of binding commitment. Spoken before witnesses, spoken without coercion, spoken directly to the crown." Ethan felt cold. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "There must be a mistake." "There is no mistake," Valeth replied. Her voice was calm, but something unreadable lay beneath it. "You declared lifelong bond and shared honor. Such words are spoken only once in an Axari lifetime." The chamber erupted. The Concord's automated systems began recording rapidly. Legal markers flashed into existence, translating ancient Axari law into galactic standard formats. Status indicators shifted. Ethan's console chimed softly. "Engagement protocol recorded." Ethan stared at the words. "This is a misunderstanding," he said, louder now. "In human language, those words are symbolic. They mean what they mean," Queen Valeth said. "Intent does not erase declaration." The Concord speaker, a floating being of light and sound, intervened. The record shows a valid cultural invocation. Under Concord law, it must stand unless both parties formally withdraw under accepted terms. Ethan swallowed. Then I withdraw. Axari nobles reacted sharply. A hiss of disapproval passed through them like a wave. Queen Valeth raised one hand, and silence returned. Withdrawal, she said, is not immediate. It requires evaluation. Honor must be weighed. She turned slightly, addressing the chamber. The human has spoken carelessly, she continued. That is clear. Yet the words were spoken. I will not dishonor my people by pretending otherwise. Ethan felt the weight of something ancient settle over him. The speaker paused. The engagement is provisionally recognized. Further proceedings will follow. The chamber slowly returned to motion, but nothing felt the same. Ethan remained standing long after the meeting ended. Later, in a quiet room designed to feel comforting to humans, Ethan finally sat down. His hands shook now that no one was watching. A small drone hovered nearby, projecting Earth's emblem. A secure channel opened. What did you do? A voice demanded. Ethan rubbed his face. I answered a question. You bound yourself to an alien queen, the voice said flatly. I didn't mean to. That may not matter. Ethan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He replayed the moment again and again. The words, the silence, the kneeling nobles. I didn't know, he said quietly. We believe you, the voice replied, but belief won't undo law. What happens now? There was a pause. Now, the voice said, you become very important. The connection ended. Ethan closed his eyes. On the other side of the station, Queen Valeth stood alone in a private chamber. The walls were carved with symbols older than Earth's oldest cities. She rested one hand against the cool surface. The human had not known. She was certain of that, yet the words had been spoken with confidence, with conviction, without fear. Most species avoided such statements. They wrapped promises in conditions and delays. The human had not. Valeth looked out into the darkness of space. Careless, she murmured, but not weak. By ancient law, the path had begun. Whether it would end in unity or disaster, only honor would decide. Ethan Cole woke to silence that felt heavy, not empty. The room he had been given aboard the Axari station was large, smooth, and softly lit. The walls curved gently, changing color with his breathing, as if the room itself was paying attention to him. It was meant to be calming. It was not working. He sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes. For a moment, he hoped everything had been a strange dream. Then he noticed the thin band of light around his wrist, glowing faint blue. A provisional bond marker. It was real. Ethan let out a slow breath and stood. His movements felt careful now, as if every step mattered more than it had yesterday. A soft tone sounded, and the wall opened into a doorway. 2 Axari guards waited outside. They were tall and armored, their expressions unreadable. They did not raise weapons or speak. They simply inclined their heads. The Queen requests your presence, one said through the translator. Ethan nodded. Of course. As he walked with them through the station, he noticed how different everything felt compared to the Concord chamber. This place was not built to impress outsiders. It was built to last. The floors were worn smooth by centuries of use. The walls carried faint marks. Not decoration, but record symbols of past agreements, victories, and losses. This was a place that remembered. They entered a wide hall filled with soft light. Queen Valeth stood at its center, alone. She wore no crown now, only simple markings along her shoulders and arms. She turned as Ethan approached. You slept, she said. Yes, Ethan replied. Eventually. That is good. Exhaustion clouds judgment. Ethan hesitated. Your Majesty, I need to say again, I never intended. I know, Valeth said. She raised one hand gently, stopping him. If I believed otherwise, you would not be standing here freely. That surprised him. Then why does this continue? Because intent does not erase consequence. she replied. Among my people, words shape reality. A careless vow can bind generations. Ethan swallowed. On Earth, words are flexible. Valeth studied him closely. That is not weakness, she said. It is danger. Two, they began to walk together. No guards followed. The hall opened into a garden filled with alien plants, tall and still, their leaves glowing faintly. You are afraid, Valeth said. Yes, Ethan answered honestly. Not just for myself, for my people. Good, she said. Then you understand the weight of this. Ethan looked at her. Is there truly no way to undo it? There is, Valeth replied. But it is not simple. And it is not free. She stopped near a pool of dark water. By law, an engagement may be dissolved if dishonor is proven. If you are shown to be unworthy, the bond ends. Ethan frowned. It would shame you, she said, and by extension, humanity. Ethan felt his chest tighten. So my failure wouldn't just affect me. No, Valeth said. It would define how the galaxy sees your species. Silence stretched between them. I never wanted to represent all of humanity, Ethan said quietly. No one worthy ever does, Valeth replied. Later that day, Ethan was given access to records. Not just Axari law, but their history. He learned how their empire had nearly destroyed itself long ago, through broken promises and internal betrayal. Honor laws had been created afterward, harsh but clear, to ensure survival. Promises saved them. That night, Earth sent another secure call. We're divided, a senior official admitted. Some see this as a disaster. Others see opportunity. I'm not an opportunity, Ethan said. You're both. The official replied. The Axari are powerful. Their protection alone could change humanity's future. Ethan clenched his jaw. At what cost? That's what we're trying to decide. The call ended without answers. The next days passed quickly. Ethan attended lessons on Axari customs. He learned when to speak and when silence mattered more. He learned that honor was not about pride, but responsibility. Every action echoed outward. He also noticed something else. The Axari watched him closely, but not with hostility. With curiosity. Some expected him to fail. Others hoped he would not. Queen Valeth observed from a distance. She asked questions, but never trapped him with them. When he made mistakes, she corrected him quietly. When he showed patience or honesty, she acknowledged it with a nod. One evening, news arrived that changed everything. A rival power, the Karun Assembly, formally challenged the legitimacy of the engagement. They claimed it was manipulation, that the Axari were using a weaker species to gain political advantage. The Concord announced an inquiry. Ethan stood beside Valeth as the message played. They want this to collapse, Ethan said. Yes, Valeth replied. And they want humanity to retreat. Ethan thought of Earth. Of people arguing, fearing, hoping. What happens if I walk away now? He asked. Valeth met his gaze. Then the galaxy will learn that humans speak bravely, but flee when words become real. Ethan felt a quiet anger rise in him. Not toward her, toward the assumption. I won't do that, he said. Valeth raised an eyebrow. Even if it costs you? He nodded. Especially then. That night, Ethan recorded a message to Earth. I made a mistake, he said plainly. But running from it would be a worse one. If humanity wants respect, we have to earn it. Not with power, but with responsibility. The message spread quickly. Across the station, Queen Valeth watched the stars. The human was still afraid, but he was standing. And that, she knew, meant everything was about to change. The inquiry began under the cold light of the galactic Concord, and this time the chamber did not feel distant to Ethan Cole. It felt close, like the walls were leaning in to listen. He stood beside Queen Valeth on a shared platform, a position that carried meaning far beyond comfort. It told the galaxy that neither stood above the other during judgment. Across the chamber, the delegates of the Karun assembly waited. They were sharp-featured and perfectly still, their eyes like dark glass. Their lead speaker stepped forward. "The engagement is invalid," the Karun declared. "It was formed through ignorance. The human did not understand Aksari law. To allow it to stand is to reward confusion and invite manipulation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Ethan felt the familiar urge to speak quickly, to explain, to soften the moment. He stopped himself. He remembered what he had learned. Words mattered here. Timing mattered more. Queen Valeth spoke first. "Ignorance does not erase responsibility," she said. "If it did, no promise would ever be safe." The Karun speaker tilted their head. "Then let us test responsibility." A symbol flared in the air between them. A projection appeared, showing a distant system near Aksari borders. Several stations blinked red. "The Karun Assembly claims a trade dispute in this system," the speaker said. "We request Concord arbitration. Until resolved, we will enforce our claim." Ethan's stomach tightened. Enforce was a careful word. It often meant pressure, blockades, and worse. Valeth's voice remained calm. "That system has long been protected by our fleets, and now," the Karun replied, "you are distracted." The challenge was clear. They were testing the bond, testing whether humanity would vanish when danger appeared. The speaker of the Concord intervened. "This dispute will be observed. Actions taken will inform judgment." The message was simple. The galaxy would watch what happened next. Back aboard the Aksari station, tension spread like a quiet storm. Fleets moved. Messages flew between worlds. Ethan sat in a small strategy chamber with Valeth and several advisors. Holograms showed ship movements, supply lines, and risk paths. "I am the weakness they see," Ethan said. "They think I will break." "They think humans will break," Valeth corrected. Ethan looked at the projections. "Earth doesn't have the strength to match the Karun directly." "You have something else," Valeth said. "Choice," Ethan replied. He requested a secure link to Earth. The faces that appeared were tired. Some were angry. Others looked afraid. "They're pushing," Ethan said. "Not because they want the system, because they want us to run." Silence followed. A fleet commander spoke. "If we commit, we risk ships we can't afford to lose." A scientist added, "If we don't, we lose something harder to rebuild." Ethan nodded. "Trust." He took a breath. "I won't ask you to fight for me. I'm asking if we fight for our word." The discussion lasted hours. When the decision came, it was not loud or dramatic. It was unanimous. Human ships would move, not to attack, but to support. Engineers, medics, defensive escorts, supply carriers. When the first human vessels arrived at the edge of the contested system, the galaxy noticed. They were small compared to Aksari warships, less advanced, clearly vulnerable. They came anyway. Ethan stood on the observation deck as reports came in. Human crews worked alongside Aksari teams, sharing data, adapting quickly, learning faster than anyone expected. When a station's shield grid failed, human engineers improvised a temporary fix using parts meant for cargo handling. It held. The Karun advanced probes withdrew slightly. Confusion replaced confidence. Queen Valeth watched in silence. "They did not have to do this," she said. "No," Ethan replied. "They chose to." The situation escalated when a Karun patrol crossed too close to a civilian station. Aksari ships moved to intercept. Human escorts followed, positioning themselves between the patrol and the station. A message arrived from the Karun commander. "Withdraw your human vessels," it said. "They are not bound to this conflict." Ethan answered personally. "They are bound," he said, "by their own decision." The patrol hesitated. Across the Concord, reactions shifted. Species that had dismissed humans as unreliable now watched carefully. Records updated. Assessments changed. The confrontation ended without weapons fire. The Karun pulled back, not defeated, but exposed. Their challenge had failed to create retreat. The inquiry resumed days later. The Karun speaker looked less certain now. The human acted under pressure from the Axari, they said. This proves imbalance. Ethan stepped forward before Valeth could speak. I was offered a way out, he said clearly. I was told failure would end the bond. I chose to stand anyway. The chamber was silent. I spoke carelessly, Ethan continued. But when I learned what my words meant, I didn't run. Humans make mistakes. What defines us is what we do after. Queen Valeth placed one hand over her chest, an Axari sign of acknowledgement. The speaker of the Concord spoke. The inquiry finds no dishonor. A wave of reaction spread through the chamber. Ethan exhaled for the first time in days. Later, alone again, he felt the weight finally hit him. He sat, hands shaking, and laughed softly at himself. He was still afraid. He always would be. Queen Valeth joined him quietly. You stood when tested, she said. So did your people, Ethan replied. She inclined her head. Honor recognizes honor. Outside, human and Axari ships continued to work together, not because law demanded it, but because trust had begun to form. The galaxy had expected weakness. Instead, it had seen resolve. And the story was no longer about a careless sentence. It was about what humanity chose to do when the universe listened. The station felt different after the inquiry ended. The lights were the same, the halls just as wide, but something unseen had shifted. Ethan Cole noticed it in the way Axari guards inclined their heads a little deeper when he passed. He noticed it in the quiet respect of the advisors who no longer spoke around him. But to him, he did not feel powerful. He felt tired. Ethan stood alone near a wide window, watching stars slide past as the station adjusted its orbit. For weeks, every moment had carried weight. Every word, every pause, every choice. Now that the galaxy had made its judgment, the silence felt almost louder than the noise before. A soft sound announced someone approaching. Queen Valeth stopped beside him, her presence calm and steady. She did not speak at once. Among the Axari, silence was never wasted. You are still here, she said at last. I wasn't sure where else to go, Ethan replied. That answer is honest, she said. Honesty has served you well. Ethan let out a slow breath. The inquiry cleared the bond. The challenge failed. The galaxy moved on. But this? Us? It's still unfinished. Yes, Valeth said. That is why I am here. She turned to face him fully. By law, the engagement now stands without challenge. The final binding may proceed. Ethan's chest tightened. He had known this moment would come, yet hearing the words made it real in a new way. And if I say no? He asked quietly. Valeth did not look offended. Then the bond may be reshaped or released. The law allows it now. Freely. That surprised him. It does? You have proven honor under pressure, she said. You are no longer bound by mistake alone. Ethan looked back at the stars. On Earth, people would say this is where the story ends. The misunderstanding becomes fate. And what do you say? Valeth asked. Ethan was silent for a long time. I say fate shouldn't come from an accident, he said. Only from choice. Valeth studied him. That belief is very human. He smiled faintly. I've been told. They walked together through the station, passing through halls marked with old symbols. Ethan recognized some now. Records of alliances, of wars avoided, of promises kept even when they hurt. They entered a chamber Ethan had not seen before. It was smaller, warmer, designed not for ceremony but conversation. 2 seats faced each other. Valeth gestured for him to sit. When you first spoke those words, she said. That hasn't changed much, Ethan replied. Her eyes reflected a hint of amusement. What has changed is understanding. She rested her hands together. The Axari believed honor was born from law, from rules strong enough to force obedience. Watching humanity act, I see something else. Honor born from choice. Ethan leaned forward. We don't always choose well. Neither do we, Valeth said. But when your people were tested, They did not hide behind weakness or strength. They stood because they decided to. She paused. That is rare. Ethan thought of Earth. Of arguments, fear, courage, and quiet determination. We're still learning who we are, he said. So are we, Valeth replied. A message arrived softly in the room. Updates from the Concord. Several species had formally requested new talks with humanity. Not as observers. As equals. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. They see us differently now. Yes, Valeth said. And so do I. She rose from her seat. Ethan Cole, she said, her voice formal but not cold. I release you from any bond born of misunderstanding. His heart skipped. Relief washed through him, mixed with something else he did not expect. Thank you, he said. She continued. And I offer you something else instead. He looked up. A partnership, she said. Not of law alone, not of crowns or accidents, but of choice. Between peoples. Between leaders who understand the cost of words. Ethan stood slowly. Not an engagement. No, Valeth said. Something stronger. He considered the galaxy beyond the walls. A place full of old powers, careful games, and long memories. This won't be simple, he said. Nothing worth keeping ever is. She replied. Ethan nodded. Then yes, I choose that. The agreement that followed was unlike anything the Conquered had seen. It was not framed as marriage or dominance. It was written as shared responsibility. Mutual defense by choice. Cultural exchange without command. A promise that could only exist if renewed by action. When the speaker announced it, the chamber reacted in quiet surprise. No binding vows. No forced symbols. Just trust. Earth responded with cautious hope. Celebrations were muted but real. Humanity had not gained a queen. It had gained respect. Ethan prepared to return home. As he boarded the human vessel waiting at the dock, he paused. Queen Valeth stood across the bay, watching. You will return, she said. Yes, Ethan replied. Because I want to. Not because I must. She inclined her head. That is the difference. As the ship pulled away, Ethan looked back at the station growing smaller against the stars. He thought of the sentence that had started everything. A careless phrase spoken too easily. Words were dangerous, but they could also be bridges. The galaxy would remember this moment. Not as the time a human accidentally became engaged to an alien queen, but as the moment a young species showed it could stand by its choices. Humanity was still small, still uncertain, but it had learned something important. In a universe ruled by ancient laws, the greatest strength was choosing to mean what you say and choosing what you mean. And that, Ethan knew, was only the beginning.